Welcome to the Insurance Apprentice Season 9. I'm your host, Nuntutsugo Mhlungu. It's a new week and the search for the ultimate ambassador of the short-term insurance industry continues. Following last week's presentations, the contestants got to learn more about each other as well as themselves. While some appeared to be improv masters, displaying the ability to think quickly on their feet, others seemed to crumble under the pressure of the judges' fiery questions. This week, however, brings a new task, a new sponsor, new team dynamics, and an opportunity for the contestants to up their game and impress the judges. This episode is brought to you by Sazria, a non-life insurer that provides special risk cover to individuals and businesses. By the end of this episode, one of the apprentices' hopes of becoming the insurance apprentice will be looted and left without cover. The question is, which apprentice's journey will be coming to an end?
Last week, what stood out for me was the specific feedback that I received.
You just weren't sharing the information with us. We practically had to drag it out of you.
I thought that I was prepared and I was confident enough, but I think just the energy in the room, there's no going back from the hack, unfortunately.
I came in late. I had this feeling that I actually didn't make it through to the top 10, so maybe I'm not gonna go through.
It seemed as though the judges didn't really understand our solutions.
So that we have...
Why should we fire you right now?
Everything was about crisis management.
I'm done. I believe that the team dynamic is everything because it's going to come across when you are presenting.
The first person to leave the insurance apprentice is Deirdre.
This competition is just becoming more and more serious. This week, I need to be the best that I can be with every task.
1 down and 8 to go.
Did anybody else cry themselves to sleep this past week?
Not me. No. You look like you did.
Last week was obviously tough being on the losing side. For me, it's all about growth from last week and moving forward, how I can just improve on my own personal performance as well as the team dynamic.
The finisher was when the one judge got up and threw all of her things and she was not happy.
Oh my goodness.
We definitely had some gaps in the way we presented. So it's all about just thinking about how can I respond to the brief in the most comprehensive way.
It got real, right? Someone left. That's the realness that it just hit. So it could be one of us next. Let's hope not. Cross fingers, it's not.
Deirdre's elimination was really hard to take in. For me, it just meant that I can't lose myself.
Well, the feedback I received spoke to my leadership ability. It was quite cutting, but I went back, reflected on the feedback that was given to me, and I understand now what Simon meant by I should have jumped in at a certain point. So I'm happy he gave me that feedback.
I'm glad that you're back in the competition.
Oh, thank you for mentioning it. The two biggest threats, Mutsa is one, and the other person I feel is Kagiso. If I don't make it through, I'll be rooting for one of them.
I remember thinking 15 minutes into the challenge, I was like, should I have chosen being a leader? Because it was not a pleasant experience.
The feedback from the judges was quite something, definitely something to take to heart. Maybe a bit of a change of strategy this week. Let's see what happens. My strategy for this week is stepping up. I have to enter the arena, so to speak, and not sit out any longer.
Good morning, team, and welcome back. As promised, we were going to continuously turn up the heat as we move through the series. And of course, today is sure to deliver upon that. We're very grateful to have this task sponsored once again by Sazria. Sazria have been involved with the Insurance Apprentice since the very beginning. And we're privileged to have Muzi Dladla from Sazria here with us today. Welcome, Muzi.
Thank you, Simon. Very good morning to all of you contestants. Today's task is going to be actually quite interesting. We're looking at a sovereign risk. So that's the first part. So South Africa being a semi-arid country, so there are a couple of disasters that take place. On the contingent liability side, one is that we have drought, which is an issue, and capacity has been quite decreased over time. The other one, we have fire. So fire, when the temperature rises, fire becomes an issue. And then the other one is excessive rain. We've seen what happened in KZN. That is on the natural catastrophe side. So the other side is civil unrest. So SASRA is the state-owned entity that looks after that risk. So the private insurance companies look after the rest. So capacity has been decreased quite a lot. So it means there's a big protection gap. So that's where the task is on today, on protection gap. So what we would like you to do, we would look at you as experts. So you need to come up with a solution for us. So your task is for you to come up with a model or a framework that is workable between the private insurance companies who are interested in this type of cover, as well as the state having capacity and the obligation to be the last insurer of resort. That's your task.
Thanks, Muzi. Of course, I'm also joined once again by Knox Dlamini, a prior winner of the Insurance Apprentice. Any last words for them before we send them on their way?
Sure. Good morning, apprentices. I think I'd just like to remind you that each day is a chance to take the feedback that we give to you, use it, reflect, and get better. You heard it reiterated by all of the judges that there's no warming up period, right? This is the moment. And what I want to see from you, and you owe it to yourselves to really leave everything on the floor today so that whatever our decision is, you can walk away and hold your head up high.
I want you to go away, come up with a name for your team, and once again, choose a leader. And please bear in mind there's a huge amount of accountability and responsibility that sits upon the shoulders of the leader of the group. All right, you're dismissed. Good luck.
I keep my eyes out and I'm watching the world with my feet. This is the moment, it's the cold, it's the flames, it's the fault lines.
Don't become the collateral damage of civil unrest, strikes and riots. One word can rewrite your story. SASRIA. As the only company in South Africa that insures you against civil unrest, SASRIA ensures that when things go bad, SASRIA makes good.
Today's task is a real world problem, real world concern. So there's a lot of aspects to it that you need to consider. I feel a little bit nervous.
Today's task is a bit challenging. It requires a deep knowledge of the industry and it needs for you to be quite innovative and forward thinking.
I think the big picture approach on this thing is that nobody wins when the whole country suffers a drought. There is a moral duty on insurers to participate.
The rest of South Africa, how do we get their buy-in? Because obviously we're trying to look at a way where everyone can contribute for the betterment of society at large.
Today's task is allowing me to think outside the box, but I'm a little nervous because something might come across as too out of the box.
The task is asking us to essentially come up with a model that bridges the gap between these uninsured disasters and what SASRIA can offer.
We speak about corporate, speak about breaking, but the one thing that corporate and insurance miss is who is it affected by? Yes. On ground level, I deal with people affected by this. You deal with the numbers and the claims coming in. Do you understand?
So with Wayne, he pitched the idea that, the project or the task that we were presented with should come from a people's perspective.
We go with empathy. We go with solving the problem for the people.
You get I understand what you mean, you get the people aspect of the task. Right?
Okay.
Is that your direction?
That's going to be my direction.
Today's task is an interesting task. It has required us to put sort of a different kind of thinking cap on. It's still quite challenging.
You know what I think? Is it like responsibility from like a BE point of view?
It's the corporate social responsibility for me. It's about actually trying to help the greater good of the economy.
From an insurer point of view, but what would a bank benefit from this if we say all corporates are going to chip in?
You're not obliged to do it unless we make it legislation. but I don't think you can long-term. That's too long. Very long-term. You can't just implement legislation to say you have to contribute.
We nominated Kyle to be the leader of our group. I feel Kyle has good leadership qualities. He's someone who encourages people that he leads to speak.
It should then create capacity, insurance capacity. Right now, Insurer X is like, okay, I can only cover 10 million worth of risk in this sort of line. Previously, I used to be able to do 50, right? But now I can only do 10. What Sasria is offering, I can now increase my 10 to 20.
So that's how the private sector funds the Sasria initiative.
Will it be layered or will it be a totally different policy?
That's a good question.
There may be a variety of possibly different ideas. That's possibly what's contributed to why we haven't come up with the set structure at this stage.
Because a commercial institute would say, okay, we're going to contribute, even if it is as little as 2.5% yearly towards this fund, right?
Is there something we can look at statistics-wise that will help us? Like the average cost involved in a national disaster?
Today's task, I feel, is very challenging for me because it's in an area that I'm not really exposed to. I'm not really quite understanding the task at hand. So we've identified what the problem was, and I think our model is going to bridge that gap.
It's all about conveying that in the presentation.
Yeah, we believe in it, so that's the most important thing. Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
The team dynamics is amazing. Everybody has their area of expertise. I just contain what the general direction of it. These guys are going to go and conquer. Okay, guys, I think we've got what we need. Let's go win.
Yeah. All the best.
Right, welcome back. What is the name of your team?
We are FutureMet.
FutureMet. And who's the leader?
I am.
Wayne. All right, take it away.
Good afternoon, panel. We are FutureMet, and we would like to present you with our solution for the problems we are facing as a country and as an industry today. Then we would like to suggest a PPP, a private-public partnership by the name of Project Synergy. Project Synergy is an insurer that would only take on the risk of the natural disasters such as flood, drought and fire as it is now.
As we know that we are facing a market that is filled with uninsurable systemic risks, we know that systemic risks affect a large population of people all at the same time. So we believe that our model will create additional capacity to address these risks, and we also believe that it will create that capacity for the general public who is not able to afford insurance when natural disasters or uninsurable risks occur in our country.
So the data analytics model, and without taking away from my colleague, will be used to rate particular insureds in particular areas based on frequency and severity of the particular risks that this project aims to incorporate as part of Sasria's or as part of Project Synergy's wide ambit in terms of the risks that we have been meant to consider.
Now, just to address some key risk considerations, there's very little that we can do when it comes to climate-related losses, but it is important within our risk management sort of strategy that we include innovative solutions that allow us to better identify and potentially mitigate against these losses, such as parametric models, predictive modeling, and weather index solutions. We'll also introduce digital monitoring tools that will allow us to assess losses from a geographical scale so that we know which areas are certain higher risk and possible implement risk management mitigation solutions in those areas.
We use the Sasria model as it stands now, as we do realize, and we mentioned earlier that the Sasria model has been successful for the last 40 years. So we would like to propose not only the same model, but the same, but the same spread of how we contact our clients with using insurers as our collection agents. Now with the threat of reinsurers moving away from these covers and covers being excluded, that means in future that the government becomes fully responsible for that whole amount. And we would like to propose that if we use the current Sasria rate, we would need an increase of 30% on that rate as a takeoff point, and which would give us an income per year of 8.3 billion that would cover almost half of the losses that has occurred now.
I need you to please just explain to me, how is this going to look like? How is it going to be distributed? Is it a stock structure? Is it a mutual structure? What kind of structure, the formation of this project, as you call it? And then tell me, how is it going to be distributed?
It would be a company, a private company that is a conglomerate of a few heads sitting together.
Why is this a better solution than what we already have? What are the things that the various stakeholders or the various parties to this are bringing into this? Because what you're explaining now is like in a traditional insurance company, how it works, pretty much.
This project synergy is coming in and allowing insurers access, or giving them access to additional capacity that we are collecting from the compulsory premium.
So that would be like reinsurance then? Is that what you're saying?
It's a pooling that happens of the additional premium that's collected. You have various players within the insurance industry pooling all of their experience, pooling all of their resources to bolster the amount of money in the pot to sort of pay for these claims.
Who are the policyholders? Is it the entire population?
Current insureds.
Current insureds.
Yeah, not the entire population.
Okay, so how does the entire population then benefit?
We saw this as a benefit for the state, being able to provide that security after a huge uninsured event occurs.
So in the event there's a catastrophic loss, it obviously feeds through the traditional insurance route. Then there's a buffer that Project Synergy is providing before possibly the state has to get involved to come and bail us or bail the market out.
I have this feeling right now that I fell asleep and I woke up halfway through my favorite program and I missed the whole point.
From what you're explaining, it's a means to an end to provide for a fund, right? For some sort of safety net for the uninsured. So you've got these private companies that buy in and somehow pay money to the state. What's in it for them if a portion of the proceeds is going to the state? What's in it for the actual shareholders of this conglomerate?
So it's Sasria plus a conglomerate of insurers. And they come together and they are the shareholders in Project Synergy.
Which is an insurance company.
Yes, which
right?
is an insurance company.
And then this is the only conglomerate that can offer this cover, right?
Yes.
To provide relief in the event of disaster for the uninsured market. Am I getting that correct?
The uninsured market is not a player in our model as it is now. The benefit to the state is the relief of being the insurer of last resort when it comes to footing the bill for uninsured losses, systemic losses, as she mentioned. So
who's the insured here? Who gets the money when there's a disaster?
The policyholders.
Who is the policyholder, I think is the question.
The policyholders of the conglomerate who are part of...
So in other words, an insured, a business that, like this building...
And an individual.
An individual.
So this Project Synergy, by using Sasria's sort of existing model to increase premium, or charge an additional premium that is pulled into this fund, now is able to create sort of additional capacity in that market that allows the insurer to benefit, or the primary insurer to benefit from this additional capacity that's being offered.
That's all we have time for. Thanks. You're dismissed.
Thank you.
I know that I'm the team leader, so if my team doesn't do well today, I could be next.
Following today's presentation, I do feel good. Some of our points didn't quite land with the judges.
I honestly don't feel like I've done enough. I feel as though I might have missed the plot somewhere.
I do think we did come up with a solid idea. I think maybe where we fell short was making sure it was clearly explained to the judges.
Welcome back, team. What is the name of this team?
Susonke.
Susonke. And who's the leader?
I am.
Kyle. All right, take it away.
Thank you for your time. Today I have with me myself, Kyle, who's been appointed the leader, Elizabeth, Kagisho, Ferguson and Marissa. We've come up with the name Team Susonke because we believe it really encapsulates what we are trying to achieve with our objective today. We are all together. We've been given a task to, obviously, we're looking at the gap that has been between what we can get in terms of the capacity allowed and to what we actually require in our market. On the back of civil unrest as well as the catastrophe covers, it's seen a reduction in the actual capacity available, and we believe that the solution that we've come up with is a long-term, not a quick fix solution, but a long-term sustainable, viable solution, which is a shared solution with all these role players that we believe will come together all as one to really bridge that gap slowly but surely. Who are the role players? The role players we have are the state themselves in terms of the actual public sector. We have Sasria, we have the reinsurance market, we have the insurance market, as well as other corporates in the private sector.
In the recent 2 years, South Africa has experienced a lot of catastrophic risks that were not covered by insurance companies and that exposed Sasria to what they could cover. What this fund is going to do is it is going to provide a shared agreement between the government, the insurers, and Sasria to cover for the losses that are catastrophic and are not, cannot be claimed for in the traditional insurance policies.
We collect contributions from every single member of the business fraternity. So what this means is not only in the short-term industry, but other corporates as well, to pull together to create a shared value where we address the issue from the insuring perspective, but also to ensure that the contributions that we have collected, we can pull together in order to rebuild or repackage and reshape our industries.
What we did was we looked at what Sasria made in 2021, which was about 2.8 billion, and we just decided we're going to take about 10% of that as our initial pool for this contribution fund. So we came up with the amount, we kind of rounded out the figure to about 300 million in the first year. In our second year, we added a 10% onto what we expected from the first year in terms of contributions, taking us from the 300 to 350 million. And we anticipated also a 10% increase in the other operations and claim cost, which bringing us to a total of 220 million.
In terms of the Sasria Act, Sasria only covers losses and damages arising from property damage and contingency losses arising from strikes, riots, protests and terrorism at this stage. Unfortunately, the Act would need to be changed to allow for Sasria's participation in the Susonke structure. My suggestion would be that we lean towards the Disaster Management Act as a definition to curb and to specifically define Sasria's participation in this new model.
So is this a company that's being set up?
It's a fund.
How is this fund being structured? Like the road accident fund?
Correct, effectively.
Please break down the roles of each of your role players. I think that's going to help us clarify, because I think that's what my colleagues are trying to get to here.
Yes, sure thing. The concept was one where everyone contributes to a greater pot, so to speak. And I know it's...
okay,
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
So you're saying the state contributes?
Correct.
Where does it get that money from?
Again, we would need to look at the benefits. It's the shared value of it. So
no, we understand the shared value aspect, but where does the state get the money that is going to contribute to this fund?
We would probably need to look at allocating some from the taxation.
So you haven't thought about that?
No, we have, because we would need it to
additional taxes.
Correct.
From an already overburdened tax population.
Again,
Can I add something? Yes. So the issue that we have is the capacity, and Sasria's participation in this, in taking on this risk, essentially adds another reinsurer, because Sasria is essentially the reinsurer, right? So, you know, that, let's say the reinsurers at this stage has an appetite to cover a percentage in the middle. They might have an appetite to cover over and above what Sasria is able to offer, to put in the pool, and ultimately that results in the spreading of the risk.
I mean, we understand that the purpose of this fund is to close the gap, right? And as we manage the risk better, it becomes more attractive for reinsurers to come back into the market and offer capacity. What is this disaster risk management that is going to make that happen?
So I will
give you my feedback and say we've got incredible talent in the industry, and I think part of the setup of this fund is to use the experience and knowledge of the people in the insurance industry to start as the beginning team that runs with the project.
So you guys aren't the experts, because that's literally what we asked you to come up with.
We understand that this is a very slow
Somebody
process.
other than Marissa.
I can jump in there?
No, not Carl.
The challenge that we had is that what we're trying to do is that we're trying to find a solution which is quick and can address this issue right now. The challenge is that it's not practically possible at this point in time because there's so many litigation issues and matters that we will be facing. So we looked at it from a holistic point of view of how we can alleviate this problem over the longer term in a sustainable way.
So yeah, it's not a all-inclusive, we're gonna help everyone right now. It's a real collaborative structure that works towards where it's needed at the time to cover the risk.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much, Carl. All right, we're out of time. Thank you, you're dismissed.
What we presented, I feel, we didn't hit the mark. This might be my last time.
So I led today, which obviously adds an extra dimension of pressure. Because if you do lose, generally the leader goes home.
The fact that she cut me off from responding left me with the feeling that they might have heard enough from me, which could be a positive thing or a negative thing. Time will tell.
We've heard both groups. Did you feel there was a clear winner today?
No. The problem with this too is that the ones that did badly on the one hand, the other did better on the other hand.
I do think there's a group that edged past the other. But I think in terms of response to the mandate, they ticked more boxes.
What we felt we were saying, they weren't picking up, so maybe it just didn't come through clearly enough.
The other group had a more plausible and practical solution. However, the articulation of how it actually works together and how everything connects the dots, they failed to connect the dots to the degree that they should have.
I'm quite happy with the way that we answered the questions and fielded them. Some of our points didn't quite land with the judges, but good overall.
I really didn't like this solution. They said this is a long-term sustainable solution.
On this hand, on these guys, their model was shaky, very shaky. But I think what I got out of them, for me, was something more that is acceptable.
I've got no idea how well the other team is going to do, but I will say at this point I'm not feeling very confident at all.
What we planned on presenting and what we presented, I feel we didn't hit the mark.
Who do you feel made the least contribution to today?
For me, in terms of just shared contribution, the substance within the contribution, I would stick to this contestant.
Right. Yeah, I feel quite strongly that this one here is in the firing line.
The feedback from the judges created the impression that they were a little bit confused as to the structure that we had proposed as a solution.
How it came across during the presentation, it wasn't perceived the way we had hoped for it to be perceived.
I just got a sense that they were out of their depth. I think the individual did struggle, possibly because their team, could not have carried them, and they also didn't do themselves any favors.
I think we're going to have to just look at the scores today because it's very tight, it's very close.
So I'm hoping we've done enough that the concept itself, even with a lack of practicalities, can pull us through and we win.
I think we know what to do, what would be most fair. Let's get them back in here. Right, welcome back. I'd like to just start off this session by thanking Sasria once again for sponsoring an incredible task and of course to Muzi Dadla for spending time with us today. Muzi, I'm going to hand straight over to you now for your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. So the differences between the two groups is that the one group had done a construct that was close enough, in our view, to the brief. It was a workable construct. However, they did fail to articulate it to a degree where we could connect the dots. And then the other group had one that was not as articulate as the previous one. However, they did better in articulating their limited scope of what a workable construct would be. So that put us obviously in a position where it became a bit difficult. However, we are now sitting in this position where we are where we are. Simon.
Thanks, Muzi. Great feedback. Knox.
You're asked to think broadly, right? And I just didn't feel that came through. There were points that you didn't even get to touch on. And we had to just scrap that from the considerations we made. So in future, just please, these challenges are for you to really stretch yourselves. Think broadly, think deeply, apply yourselves to the challenges, and just be forthcoming with making yourselves heard. Do not wait to be called. So going forward, just please, let's raise the standard.
So what we really wanted to do today was land up with a winning group. When we have scores that are so close and neither group really hits the mark, it does make things very difficult for us. And I think that the scores generally were quite low compared to some other tasks that we've had in previous seasons. I'd like Marissa and Rafilwe to step forward, please. Marissa, how do you think you did today?
So in terms of preparation, I believe I made a substantial contribution to the idea that we came up with. In terms of delivery, I am very frustrated with myself. To put it bluntly, I want to stop sounding so pathetic when I make the delivery and speak more confidently.
Rafilwe, how do you think you did today?
I think that I tried to push myself today, but unfortunately with the delivery, it was very difficult for you guys to understand what we had presented. I mean, when we put everything together, we seemed very confident and we understood what we were trying to portray and a picture we were trying to paint, but unfortunately it didn't come across with the questions that we were being asked while we were presenting.
You know, I appreciate the humility and the self-deprecation, but it's absolutely unnecessary because the two of you were the top scorers in your groups today, so you're both safe. So you may step back, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But some of the unpleasantries do have to be delivered here today. So could I have the following three people please step forward? Ferguson, Elizabeth, and Kagisho. So the three of you had the lowest scores today. Two of you will be leaving us today. The first person to leave will be Kagisho. Kagisho, you may leave. The next person leaving the competition today is Ferguson. Ferguson, you're dismissed. Elizabeth, you're safe. You may step back. We can't take all of you into the final. And as I said in the last task, it's only going to get more difficult. Think about that, gather your strength, and I'll see you back here for the next task. You're dismissed.
I'm sad. I really started enjoying this competition, and it's so sad to be leaving so soon.
While I do admit that, yes, maybe I kind of messed up with the task today, still sucks being out. So yeah, not feeling great at the moment, but I'll be good.
Obviously feeling a little bit guilty, considering that the two guys that went home today were in the team that I led. Obviously the responsibility, I feel kind of is like, you want to say their blood's on my hands a little bit.
A fair outcome. Never nice sending two people home instead of one. Also not great when you don't have a winning group. I always like our sponsor to leave thinking, there was a clear winner. But maybe that just describes how complex this problem is that we're dealing with as a society and actually as the world at large.
Absolutely.
This is not the comfort zone. And I'm realizing that in a big way.
Today just really showed how serious this competition is getting.
I think the experience was incredible. I really met a bunch of amazing, young, talented insurance professionals that I am very happy and know will be friends long after this.
From here, I'm just gonna focus my energies on school again. I'm starting a new course this year. So that's the first thing. Second thing, once that is done, just to build up my base of knowledge on the industry and then maybe come back sometime soon and maybe in more favorable situations.
Well, I think that concludes another complex task and unfortunately sees another two contestants leaving the competition. That's it.